Hi friends, welcome back to my quilt room. Today I'm going to show you a really cute project. It's a Quilt As You Go Chevron table runner, and I thought I would make it for the 4th of July because I had all these strips left over from my flag quilt that I did, and I'm such an overcutter, so I have tons of strips, and I thought this would be a great use for them, and it would be nice to have something for my table for the 4th of July. So let's get started. So the first thing I did was I measured out my table to see how big I wanted it. And I figured on a 14 wide by 40 long. So the first thing I did was I cut out my batting into a 14 by 40. And then I cut my backing. Now I did my backing a little larger, and we'll see why when we get to that. Of course, I already had all my strips. So what we're going to do is to prepare our batting. And let me bring you overhead so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to find our center on our long side. So I already know this is 14 wide, and I'm just going to take my ruler and my pen, and I'm just going to measure in 7 inches, and I'm just going to take my pen and mark this a line all the way down from top to bottom. Okay, and I've already really done that on the other side. So let me just flip this. So this is what it should look like. And then we're going to fold this in half with the line on the outside, because I want to find my center. And then we're going to start with a 5-inch square. So I'm going to take my square and I'm going to line it up right on that center mark. We're going to put it diagonally, and we're going to line these two points on the halfway mark. And you don't have to be exactly on the edge, but close enough. And then we're going to open this up, and that should stick for right now. Okay, so there we have it. So that's the starting point. Then I'm going to take my backing, excuse me. I'm going to take my backing, and we're going to layer this. Okay. And just try to center as much as you can. You want some extra on the edges. Move this over a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty good. Just give yourself a little extra in case things shift or shrink up a little from the stitching. And you can do one of two things. You can either pin this down, or you can do a little spray basting, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take my basting spray, not too much, just a little bit, just to hold that down. And we'll do the other side. Okay. And then for my square, I am just going to put a couple pins in on that, just until I get my first couple strips sewn down. Okay, so now we can start sewing our strips down, and we're going to do that at the machine. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start sewing our strips on, and we're going to take our first strip, and we're going to lay that right sides together. That's the right one. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch down. Now I have a pin under there, so I want to take that out just so I don't hit it when I go through. And I'm going to roll this up too, just so it's not in my way. There we go. And then we want to stop right at the edge there. Okay, then we're going to cut that off. And just line it up. And snip that. Okay, so that's our first strip. And I'm just going to finger press this and use my seam roller for right now. And then I'm going to take the same strip and we're going to do the next side. And we're going to start it from the end of our first strip to the bottom of our square. And I'm going to flip it too, because since we sew it to the right. Okay, so now the most important thing for this is when we flip this back, we want this edge to land right in the center there so that we know we're going to be keeping a straight line and it hits right on there. Again, I'm just going to finger press that and use my seam roller. And then I'm going to cut that off. And you could either fold it back or you can just freehand it. It's fine. Now we're going to do that with the next side. Okay, and then there's our next strip. Now we're going to flip to the other side. And we're going to do the next strip. So let's see, I'll do put my sewage off. Oh, and just so you can see that hit right there on that line. So then we're going to do the next one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue putting strips on, and I'm just going to do this whole one side, and then I'm going to come back and do this whole side. And then I'll show you when we get done. So now at this point, you have a couple different options. You can finish it here and then just fold this back or cut that off, and you can just do a point, or you can just sew off and cover the ends, which is what I'm going to do because I want mine straight. So I'm going to finish with that. Okay, so now we have our first side all the way done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip to this other side and then sew all my stripes down there. And then when I finish that, I will come back and show you how we're going to finish this up. So we're done doing all our strips. Now we're going to go back to the table and trim this up and put the binding on. So here it is. We are all done. And now we're just going to trim this up. First I'm going to press it all though before I do that. Okay, so now what we want to do is trim this up. So I'm just going to follow my I'm just going to follow my batting because we know that's already square. So I'm just going to line this up and just find out where that is, right there. And I'm going to cut that down. There's our finished table runner. I think that looks so cute. And now we're going to put our binding on. So let me grab that. Okay, so I am back with our binding. And I did, I'm doing a red gingham. And all I did was cut a 2 1/4 inch strip and folded it in half and ironed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to the front of my quilt and then sew it a 1/4 inch, wrap it to the back, and then I'm going to top stitch and it'll catch that back. So we want to go raw edges together, and I'm going to show you a quick no fuss binding today. I'll just cut that off. So we're going to start somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to fold this down to a 45-degree, like that. I'm going to put a pin in there, or a clip real quick. And then I'm going to start sewing from that edge, right straight through and all the way around. So let's go to the machine and do that. Okay, so get my machine set up. Okay, I'm going to take my clip out and I'm going to start right at that edge where I have the 45 turned. And I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way down. Make sure I line up all the way. Now for my corner, I'm going to stop at a 1/4 inch before the end. So right about here. I'm going to turn, lift up my presser foot, turn, and sew off that edge. Like turn to a 45 and sew off. Got my thread. And now what I'm going to do is, let me see if you can actually, I don't know if you can actually see that. See, I turned at a 45 and sewed right off. We're going to bring that up to a 45, making sure it's lined up with this edge. And then we're going to bring that back down to a 90, making sure our top is now straight with this edge and our binding is straight with this edge. And we're going to turn that, lift up our presser foot, and start sewing straight down. Now when I get back to the beginning where we started our sewing our binding, I'm just going to snip this off a bit. And I'm just going to overlap that just a little bit. And I'm going to backstitch too, just so I know that that's going to stay there. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, so we have our binding sewn down. And what I'm going to do is, here's where we started and ended it. And I'm just going to, once you flip this over and bring it to the back, I'll just show you real quick on the front. You can't even tell that that wasn't joined together. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to iron all this back, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch all the way down. And when I get done, I'll be right back. So the binding is all done, and here's the finished product. I think it came out really nice, and I think it's going to look really good on my table. And here's the back of it. I did the binding same as the backing, so you could even turn that over and use that too. So you can get 2 uses out of that. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you make yourself one. If you like this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you know when my next video comes out. And as always, happy sewing, and sew something happy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my quilt room. It's not a craft room. Hi friends, welcome to my quilt room. Today we're going to do a Quilt As You Go Chevron table runner. Oh boy, got stuck on that one. Quilt As You Go Chevron table runner. Hi friends, and welcome to my craft room. Now, hi friends, welcome back to my craft room. It's not a craft room. Quilt room. On table runner and Quilt As You Go, of course. As You Go Chevron. Quilt As You Go Chevron table runner. Quilt As You Go Chevron table runner. Hi friends, welcome back to my craft room. Oh my God, there you go again.